Welcome to the Perfect Pitch Auto Repair Sports Spotlight. They do it all at 108th and Kedzie. Flowers for every imaginable occasion at Lansing Floral Shop. Call them at 708-474-1212. They deliver.
Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Pointless Exercise Podcast. This should normally be a baseball podcast with Dave Brown, but Dave is unavailable this week. He's on assignment. I think he was heading out to scout Michael Conforto. But presumably, 2 weeks from now, we'll have Dave. So that'll be good. Next week should be a Praz and Oleg baseball spectacular. So you're not going to have to go too long. But this was either, hey, I could either ramble on and do a solo podcast, make you suffer to hear my thoughts on things, or no podcast at all. I chose violence. So you get me. I did get asked by a viewer. Some people do watch the pod on YouTube. Not very many. Most people still listen to it exclusively. But when I'm going to change, there's a letterboard behind me, if you're watching, that has the score still from the recap we did when the Bears beat the Packers in the playoffs. Like, hey, when are you going to update that? And it's like, well, next year when the Bears beat the Packers? Probably. No, I'm sure it'll have some Cub use at some point. Anyway, I was on Tom Loxis's new podcast Sunday night, I think it is. I think he released it on Monday, Tuesday. It's all a blur. Tuesday, I think it came out. That podcast is called The Lore. And it's the idea behind it is he finds somebody who has deep historical knowledge of something iconic in Chicago sports. I think the first one he did was Matt Spiegel, and they talked about kind of baseball theme songs like Go Cubs Go and Hey Hey Holy Mackerel and stuff like that. Spiegel talked a little bit about what he thought the origins of those were. Well, he was on to episode 4 with me, and we already broke the format of the pod. Because, well, maybe. We talked about the fact that I make fun of the Cubs giveaways every year, which I love to. It's I enjoy it very much. Even when they're good. The good giveaways you can make fun of, and the bad ones are even easier to make fun of. And then we talked about the sports media rankings, power rankings that Jeff Agrest of the Sun-Times had a couple of weeks before, which I also made fun of in the newsletter. We didn't talk about my book, though. Oh, we have to come back. Talk all about the 2003-2004 Cubs and the 2016 Cubs. Books, plural. Go to Amazon if you haven't gotten them yet. And judging by the sales, you haven't, I'm kidding. Could always sell more, but I was very heartened by how many people actually bought. Because I kind of did it because Oleg wanted a copy of the 2003 book. I didn't have any anymore, so I redid it and improved it, added an entire year to it. And then I did the 2016 one and thought, at the very least, I'll have them for myself. I don't even have any on display here. Well, I can't reach them from where I am. Go to decipio.com/books, and they're right there. Or go to the newsletter. I slap an ad for those on the top of every and bottom of every post. You can't avoid it. But thank you to those of you who have already bought them. It's very nice. There's still typos, and it pisses me off. I will go back in and fix some. But you're going to want the first edition with the typos in it, because that'll be when I die and some august organization wants to publish my memoir, or no, they want to put my stuff in their library. So my papers, so you can see my papers. The first edition will be worth millions, I would guess. So you might want to get one before I fix them and ruin it. One of the things I forgot to mention with the media power rankings, and we talked about, I don't understand what Jeff considers power, and I guess he's going on the podcast. So on Tom's podcast. So maybe he'll explain it. But one of the things I noticed was we talked about how the Bears seemed kind of underrepresented given the year they had, and I think it probably was most of the year was Cub dominated, the end of the year was Bear dominated. Next year that list will be lots of Bears. Little Wani's on there for no apparent reason. But like the Cubs, Boog is number 1. Now that's not a guy who screams power, does it? And Pat, I think, is 3. It might be it for the Cubs. It's Taylor and all her insightful sideline stuff. There were 3 White Sox on there: Garfien, Ozzie, and Stone. It made no sense because nobody paid any attention to them last year. Barely anybody will pay attention to them this year. It's not their fault, but I don't think you have a lot of power. When you're on a network, nobody seems to bother to remember where it is, and you have a team nobody wants to see. But anyway, so you had you had Pat and Boog. Where was Jeff Joniak? See, just no dummy. He knows. Jeff Agres is no dummy. Jeff Joniak, absolutely dummy. He knows Joniak sucks. Although he wrote a story about him, I think, this year, where they talked about how hardworking he is. If you're bad at something and you work really hard at it, you just work really hard at you just do things bad with a lot of effort. Doesn't make you good at it. No matter how much you can grind. If you don't have the basic skills, kind of like me in this podcast. What? Wait, was that? Never mind. Anyway, Joniak's not on it. Neither's Thayer. He also kind of sucks. Could they get an analyst that has played in the 90s or later? Thayer probably did. He probably played till like 91 when all the dicky guys started to get thrown off the boat. I don't know. Anyway, so Spiegel, I said nice things on that podcast about Matt Spiegel. Not really nice things about him. I think he's fine. He seems like a really nice guy, and I've interacted with him a few times. He's always been very nice, and anybody I know who knows him says he's a good dude. But so basically, I said, and one of the things I talked about was that it's very clear that even though the score it tends to lead the ratings, the ESPN has the better, more popular personalities. So at some point, that's going to flip. Cap is on the list. Jay Hood is on the list. Waddle was on. I don't remember if Sylvie was or not. So we're talking about that, and I say, Spiegel's not. And he's not bad. I talked about how Mully and Haw are just the worst, because they are. Well, no sooner did I say something nice about Matt Spiegel, and then he said something on his little radio show that I take a lot of issue with. But not all of it, just a part of it. So I'll just play it, because in all fairness, might as well hear it from the horse's mouth.
We know that his swing percentage last year was 59.5%, almost 60%.
Number 1, right?
Nobody in Major League Baseball swung at more pitches than Pete Crow Armstrong. And there's Ron Coomer telling you, and I can tell you that this was echoed all throughout Cubs camp, any other conversations I had, people are concerned that the league figured Pete out, high fastball, and then junk out of the zone. Good night, everybody. And that Pete has to adjust back. That's what baseball is.
I feel like that scouting report sounds eerily familiar to another very exciting Cubs player.
It's pretty funny, man. All the Javi Baez comps that we've thrown out there about Pete because of the electricity that he brings.
The emotion with which both of those guys play the game and how beautifully they defend.
Yes. And the relationship with the fans because of it. Mm-hmm. Their electricity on the bases as well. And here we go. If you can't stop swinging, pitchers ain't going to throw you anything good, and you're going to get yourself out. You're going to do their job for him. So there's widespread concern that Pete, it would just he needs to adjust back. He needs to swing less.
All right. So on the surface, what's there to disagree about that, right? I mean, we saw it. The whole second half. Pete, nobody bothered to throw him a strike on the first or second pitch. He always swung at one of the two. Usually swung at both. Swung at 60% of the pitches that were thrown at him last year, which is, But it was the thing I take issue with is this feeling that the Cubs are concerned that he's never going to be able to do it. That's the tone we got from Spiegel. Right? There's a lot of concern. There's one thing to be like, all right, Pete knows what he's got to fix. Just got to fix it. And there's another one where you act like everybody I talked to at Cubs camp. I don't even know. Did he go to Cubs camp? Did he? Maybe he did. Speaks. I don't know. Was he down there with his big floppy hat on, walking around, talking to people? But yeah, this idea that the 23-year-old center fielder is never going to be able to adjust. I don't get it. Jason Stark wrote a piece about the automated ball. What does ABS stand for? I mean, I know what IBS stands for. Alex Cohen gives me IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. ABS, automated ball strikes? That doesn't sound right. It probably is. Probably the simplest. Anyway, Jason Stark wrote about it and wrote about how the strike zone, they make a big deal out of the fact, you'll see that the umpire strike zone is actually kind of rounded, where the real strike zone should be a rectangle. But what Jason was saying, and that's true, what Jason was saying was the strike zone is going to be dramatically different because it's just going to be based on a player's height. It's not going to be based on their stance. So little Jose Altuve, who is tiny and has a tiny strike zone, always made it tinier by squatting. And that will no longer be his strike zone. Now, umps may call that still because they're just used to it. But if you go to challenge and Jose is doing a deep knee bend while he's taking a pitch, and that pitch looks high, and they challenge it, you might very well see the little Hawkeye thing pop up on the scoreboard, and it's like, oh, that's right down the middle, because he's not supposed to be, taking a dump in the batter's box. He's supposed to be actually, he can. You can bat however you want, but you shouldn't be able to shrink your strike zone by bending over. But one of the things he talked about was when they've been using this at AAA the last couple of years. When they looked at it, what would happen is umpires eventually adjust to the ABS strike zone. And one of the things ABS umpires tend to, and this seems opposite to me, but I guess it isn't, because I always felt like pitchers were not rewarded for pitching up with the real strike zone, because it's supposed to be like to the letters to the knees, and everybody's strike zone is basically, it seems like it's waist to the knees. But they were saying what happened in AAA was pitchers started having to bring had to start pitching lower. There was no top of the strike zone strikes the way they used to be. And he also then pulled the list of the guys who swing at the most high balls, pitches that are up out of the strike zone. And Pete is on the list. He's like fourth. I'm surprised he's not first, but he was fourth. Because there is kind of a, in his mind, oh, that's a strike. But it's a little too high and it's not. Now that's not going to be a strike. And you would think a smart guy like Pete, and he is, like, you hear him talk for 30 seconds and you realize it's a kid that, this is not a dummy who's not going to be able to figure stuff out. Pitchers will be penalized more for throwing up there because a lot more of those would be balls than were. Now, he's got to not swing at them. It doesn't do you any good for them to lower the top end of the strike zone if you're just going to swing at it anyway. They're just going to pitch up there because they can. But honestly, the adjustment he needs to make could actually be made easier for him by the technology, because pitchers who could pitch up there a little bit and you take enough of you start, it's basically, you tell yourself, I'm not going to swing at high strike anymore. I'm not going to swing at it. I'm not going to swing at it. I'm not going to swing at it. And then every 2 out of 5 end up being called a strike. And you're like, I'm not supposed to, I'm just going to swing at it. Well, if none of those get called for a strike on the times you take them, you would think you would start to figure out, okay, I don't have to swing at that. All that said, if he's swinging at him because he thinks I could hit this 600 feet, it might not help, but it should help. I have a lot of confidence in Pete, maybe overconfidence because I just love him. I think he's awesome. I'm not worried about him. What I'm actually worried about Pete, and if you read the article in Chicago Magazine about him that Wayne Dreys wrote, very good. Pete's quite a potty mouth. He says the F word a lot. He's really hard on himself, maybe a little too hard on himself. I honestly thought when I heard Spiegel has a concern about Pete, that not that the concern was, I don't think he's smart enough to figure out that the league is just going to throw him balls out of the zone and he's got to stop swinging at him. I thought he was going to talk about the fact that Cubs are worried that Pete is so hard on himself that he exacerbates his struggles because he presses, he gets mad, and then, that's not what they were talking about. But he's a world champion helmet tosser. We know that. The equipment is the old saying, what is it? A craftsman doesn't blame his tools. Pete must think his helmet has a lot to do with him striking out because that thing gets chucked 3 times a game. Anyway, I'm going to have a new feature on the podcast. Maybe I'll just save it for the recaps, but I'm going to have a Good Hustle Award sponsored by, there's no sponsor. Did you guys notice the little Easter egg that's been going up before the pods? Like, where have I been putting it? Right after the theme and before I start yelling, welcome back to another. Anyway, those are non-sponsors, but just got to hear that voice. Anyway, Good Hustle Award goes to Tyler Austin, who signed a $1.25 million contract with the Cubs and showed up and needs knee surgery. He's going to get paid $1.25 million to rehab a knee surgery that the Cubs have to pay for. Attaboy, Tyler. Stick it to the man. I love it. No wonder he signed so early and for so cheap. Like, when does the insurance kick in? I got to get this damn. I can't straighten my knee. I guarantee you, maybe this is why they should have a press conference, an actual press conference signing for every player. Because if he just showed up in a wheelchair, they have been like, wait a minute. We're not signing you to that. You got to love the crack Cub medical team, right? Now, Jesus Luzardo, one of the leading candidates to National League Cy Young this year, flunked his physical with the Cubs last year after they had traded him for the great ONKC. Had a really good year for the Phillies, and I don't know, that elbow might fall off. And then this year, the Cubs do trade for Edward Cabrera, a guy I really like, but a guy with a bum elbow, and they passed him. I honestly thought that was first day of camp was going to be the announcement that Edward Cabrera had caught Tommy John disease. But no, we got the Tyler. Honestly, on the magnitude of impact, much rather have Tyler Austin with his knee lock up than have Eddie with his elbow throb. Did you know Tyler Austin's mom is Patty Duke and his dad is Gomez Adams? No, wait, sorry. No. Not that Austin? No. Shit. That's Samwise Gamgee. That's a different one. Our buddy Bruce Levine had quite a tweet. He tweeted out, he had all the particulars right about Tyler and about needing knee surgery, and now the Cubs were going to have to look for another. The only problem was his Tyler, with a last name that's a prominent city in Texas, was Tyler Houston. Former Cub great, Tyler Houston. I think Tyler Houston will play as many games for the 2026 Cubs as Tyler Austin will. That's my guess. He needs patella surgery. I wonder if he should call George McCaskey and see, was there any kind of coupon when Ozzie Trapillo got his fixed? Ozzie's going to miss the whole season for the Bears, it sounds like. Tyler, I haven't seen him lately. I don't think he's a 320-pound man, so it might be a little easier for him to recover from the patella surgery. But anyway, what that does to the Cubs, though, is it leaves them in dire straits now for a right-handed bat on the bench and a backup first baseman. What are we going to do? Shit, we're screwed. Sorry for yelling. Didn't mean to do that quite as loud. Okay. We talked about this on the pod with Oleg and Prezi last week, maybe, about needing a backup center fielder, because there's teams that feel like they do. Got to have a backup center fielder. What do we do? What if our center fielder runs into the wall on the first pitch of the game and breaks his neck? And then we don't have anybody to play that day. You don't need a dedicated backup center fielder. You need somebody who can finish a game for you in center field while you make your call to AAA to get your real backup. First base is the same damn thing, right? You don't need an actual backup for. You don't need to be calling Eric Hosmer and Trey Mancini and see what they're up to. Although isn't Trey in camp with somebody? I think he is. The Savannah Bananas, maybe. What's the team that plays the Savannah Bananas? Trey would be on that. It is the Guadalupe Avocados. Is that who they play? I don't know. I don't get this banana stuff. Kind of neat. I remember the first time I saw it, like, oh, that's kind of fun. And just to see how popular it is, it's like, this country is. We are just full of morons. We prove that every day. Selling out big league parks to watch some asshole in stilts throw a pitch. Oh, well, that's fun. Anyway, back to what I was talking about, which was you don't need to go get a dedicated first baseman. You just need somebody on the roster who can play first base. And so Miguel Amaya has started taking some throws over at first base. Makes sense. Your catchers typically are guys who can either hang out a third for an inning or two at the end of a game or play first when in an emergency. I don't know that I'd have Miguel do it, though, considering he's always a freak injury waiting to happen. And we already saw Johnny Long have his elbow bend the wrong way because who threw that? I'm going to get his name wrong. Is it Jefferson Rojas? Is that his name? Oh, are we sure that he wasn't, who plays Chinese Taipei in the first round of the World Baseball Classic? Was it a hit? Did he do it on purpose to hurt Johnny Long so he couldn't go play for Chinese Taipei in the World Baseball Classic? Anyway, Miguel's going to do it. Apparently Carson Kelly can do it if they need him to. He was a third baseman originally. And I would think Matt Shaw can do it passably. If you can play, this is where we talked about this again, but this is true, right? So there's one of the famous lines from Moneyball, the movie, is maybe it's in Moneyball, the book, I don't remember. I'd have to ask Joe Morgan because he was the expert on the book Billy Beane wrote about himself. Billy Beane telling Scott Hadberg, it's not that hard, Scott. Tell him Wash. And Ron Washington says, this is incredibly hard. It's not. First base is not that hard to play. Now, it's hard to play at an elite level. The guys who are really good at it are very talented. But that's the position where you can get by in a game, right? It's nice to have somebody who can bail you out with bad throws, but just don't make bad throws. That's all the Cubs have to do. If Michael Bush has to come out of the game and they have to put, Moises Ballesteros actually plays some first base. They put the tiny little fat guy at first. You just have to make all the infielders promise they won't make bad throws for the rest of the game. It's not that hard. Pinky swear on the mound. It'll be fine. It's nice to see Moises is in camp. He wasn't trapped in Venezuela the whole time, but his visa was no good, and so he was in Colombia for 2 weeks. It was worse because he wasn't at home where he could just do his normal workouts, which I don't know. Looking at Moises, I don't know how intense those workouts are. It's like, well, time to work out. He climbs in the hammock. What are you doing? I'm stretching. Yeah. Is that ice cream? Yeah, don't worry about it. I make fun of Moises. I love him. I think he's there are some dudes you watch him hit a couple of times. You're like, oh, that guy. He's absolutely that guy, right? He can really hit. And it'd be nice if he played a position because a 24-year-old DH seems kind of reductive, but he can really hit, and that's all I care about. And I'm just glad he's there, and he's got plenty of time to get at bats and get ready to wreck the National League this year. I am worried, though, because Jed couldn't help himself. He went back to retreads are us. And he's like, do you have any white guys who can't play anymore? We got Michael Conforto. I'll take it. Michael Conforto, who last year was one of the very worst players in baseball. He was terrible. The Dodgers gave him over 500 at-bats to hit 199 and make Craig Goldstein's head explode on a daily basis. He bitched about Michael Conforto. You think I bitch about Ian Happ? Well, imagine if Happ hit 40 points lower than he does. That was the red hot rage Craig Goldstein had for Michael Conforto, who world champion Michael Conforto, who didn't play, was the everyday left fielder, and they didn't put him on the playoff roster for any round. What's the best way to improve this team? Oh, just get Conforto off of it. That'll be fine. Conforto used to be a really nice player. He was a guy the Cubs almost drafted. He went to Oregon State, where I'm sure, hopefully, he played with Nick Madrigal. I think he played with Adley Rutschman, right? Did you ever make any tackle on kickoffs? Because Adley did that. Conforto was looking tough. And he's apparently from a family where, like, his mom and dad are both, like, big-time athletes. Anyway, he got drafted by the Mets, not the Cubs. Him and Schwarber both played a year after they got drafted in that NLCS against each other. Both of them spent the series kicking fly balls around left field, but the Mets won. Apparently, it didn't hurt the Mets. They swept. And Conforto was a nice player. Not as good as Kyle, although it took Kyle a while for it to kick in. He was a nice player, and then he really had a terrible injury to his shoulder. He missed, I'm going to get the years wrong. It happened in 21, right? And then he missed all of 22, and then he was back for 23, 24, 25, and he's been awful. And it's not getting better. And now he's 32, and if last year, 2 years ago with the Giants, everybody's acting like he had a good year. He didn't. I mean, he had some counting stats, but he had a lot of terrible at-bats for the Giants. Last year with the Dodgers, even more terrible at-bats. So the trend is going in the wrong direction. And the problem you have, and I saw our buddy Pat Mooney projected the Cubs opening day roster and just put him on it. Because, like, why would they get him if they're not going to use him? It's like, oh, God damn it. This is the kind of thing. He's not any good. And he doesn't help in the area you need. Now, so I bring him up. He's in this mix for the fourth outfielder spot. And it's quite an assortment of talent. We have Chas McCormick, who 3 years ago, was a productive player for the Astros. He, at least, is an excellent defensive outfielder. Chas can really play the outfield. It's very good. Right-handed hitter with not a lot of anything. Then there's Dylan Carlson, switch hitter, former first-round draft pick of their fifth place St. Louis Cardinals, who was going to be the next big thing. He was third in Rookie of the Year voting as a rookie, and then just kind of got bad, and was part of that whole group where they had all these guys, and oh my God, we're going to do all this talent. It's amazing. We got him, we got Tyler O'Neill, we got Jordan Walker, we got Lars Nootbaar, we got Nolan Gorman, we got Brendan Donovan, we got Alec Burleson, we got a lot of chubby, bearded guys. Is going to be great. And most of them turned out to be bad. Donovan actually turned out to be the best one, and they traded him. But Carlson was part of that group, and he hasn't been very good. He's a switch hitter who is a left-handed thrower, but he hits right-handers. I said that wrong. He hits left-handers better than he hits right-handers, which is not unusual. The great Ian Happ is naturally right-handed, but he hits much better left-handed than right-handed. He's a terrible right-handed hitter. And this is one of the things that bothers me, right? So a right-handed bat for the bench is very important for the Cubs because they weren't great against lefties last year. Although their stats, I published the splits earlier this week, they're basically the same. The problem is your splits are supposed to be better against lefties. I didn't realize that when I first did it. And they're the same. And they struggled against lefties. Whether they hit some of them or not, the good ones really did bad things to the Cubs. And they're going to play Michael Busch every day at first base, which I think is fine to try it. Because at some point, he needs to prove, right? He should be he's such a good player. He should be an everyday player. But he's terrible against lefties. And we're going to find out. They're going to give him some runway, and they're going to see. And we're going to find out if he just needs to do it more to get good at it, or he's never going to be good at it. And if he's never going to be good at it, that poses a problem because you are actually going to need a first baseman then. You're going to need a right-handed one who can platoon with him. And then there's Happ, who is not much better against lefties than Busch is. So you'd kind of like to have a right-handed hitting outfielder, because at some point you're just going to have to figure out that after 10 seasons, your 31-year-old, is he 31, 32-year-old left fielder isn't going to just magically learn how to hit lefties. And I know it was 2 years ago, right, when Boog spent like the first 2 months telling us, "Oh, Ian has changed his approach as a right-handed hitter, and he's swinging at fewer bad pitches, and look at him go." And it just is bad. Strikeout rate didn't go down, production didn't go up. I think he had a few games early in the year where he got some hits against him, and they're like, "Oh, see, this is working," and then it quickly realized, no, that was blind squirrel nut. So their right-handed options in this gaggle of players, because now they've added Conforto to it, are Kevin Alcantara and Chaz. Am I forgetting anybody wandering? Oh, and Justin Dean. I don't even know which way. Let's say he's my Luis Angel Acuna. I don't know which way Justin Dean bats, and I don't know because the Dodgers never let him bat. He's right-handed. He hits right-handed. So there you go. There's your solution. The 5'8" guy with no power. So it was fine for them to bring in another player, but Conforto didn't fit anything they need. The only things that can happen would be bad, right? It would be he takes at bats away from Moises. That's the only way I see him contributing, really. Either he goes out and plays right field and Seiya DHs, or he DHs. And I just want Moises hitting. I don't care. I don't want him not. You're not better if he's not hitting. And I really thought he was part of their whole calculus. He was the reason they stopped at Bregman and when they were adding players, because they didn't have enough offense last year. They let Kyle Tucker go. They added Alex Bregman. And I thought the thought was, well, we're going to get good production out of Moises because he hit so well last year and he's hit everywhere he's ever been. And I could be worrying about nothing, which I'm apt to do. But I don't like the fact that they bring in a guy who doesn't really fit any actual need, but may fit a pretend need, which is, well, maybe, we got options. Moises has options. Maybe he can go back to Iowa and do what? Learn how to do what exactly? Got to learn how to catch. Screw that. We need him hitting. You had time to teach him how to catch. Teach him in the big leagues. That's what early practice is for. Get him in a squat and show him some stuff. Don't have time for it. So, I don't know. We'll see what they do. None of it makes any sense. And I was fine with them not getting Nick Castellanos, not because of the drinking Presidente beer in the dugout during a game, but because he was terrible against lefties last year, and he really can't play any position. So what was he going to add other than a big personality and outs? Like, he's fun. He's a fun guy. His Phillies teammates liked him 98% of the time. The other 2% of the time, they wanted to shoot him into the sun. But he didn't solve the problem either, so that was no big deal. They let him go. We'll see. Obviously, the last couple of days of spring training, there will be some useful players who try to get snuck through the waivers, and I would hope the Cubs will. Do they have any scouts left? Did Tom fire them all? If they've got a few, find somebody. They used to do it. That's how they got Reed Johnson. That's how they got the great Luis Valbuena. Just watch some team trying to sneak a superstar through waivers and grab them. That's what you got to do. All right, last thing I want to talk about is the Bears Stadium. How exciting. But I don't want to talk about the stadium. What I want to talk about is this weird rush to the victory lap that some of the Bears writers, as one guy I have in mind, took when Indiana passed their phony baloney. That committee passed the resolution unanimously to fund the stadium. Oh my God. I told Hogue, who had been saying for a while, somebody with the Bears had found a useful idiot, and they were feeding him the information about, well, we might go to Indiana. You know, what about Hammond? We go to Hammond. I know we own this land over here, and nobody wants to go to Indiana. There's nothing around this, and it's a floodplain, and we'll need a snorkel to play there. But, what about Indiana? They came out and did it, and Hogue immediately was like doing guest hits on radio shows and basically saying, this is on the 1 yard line. This could really happen. This is probably going to happen. I think it's a done deal. The Bears said they're committed to it. What they were committed to, they had a very carefully worded statement that day where they were committed to finishing the process of due diligence on a stadium site. That's what they were committed to. Everybody knows this is just leverage, right? Like, if Illinois completely won't help them, then I could see them finally saying, fuck it, I guess we got to go. And they go. But they don't want to go. George will weep every time they get to Pride and Joy of Illinois in the fight in Bear Down Chicago Bears for the rest of his life because he will have betrayed the state. And I've made the case that if you're an Illinois taxpayer, like I am, and if you were a Cook County taxpayer, which I'm not, the Bears going to Hammond is like the best possible deal, right? Like they get their stadium, they're not that far away, and you don't have to pay for it because these stadium deals are terrible. The municipalities always get fucked. There's all these empty promises of economic development and blah, blah, blah. And everybody's holding up the area around Truist Park in Atlanta now as though this is going to happen all over the place. We were constantly lied to by the Ricketts about how the stuff around Wrigley isn't profitable. It's not as profitable, I think, as they want, but they're not, nobody's holding the bake sale for them. But, Arlington Heights is going to have to give up a lot to get the Bears. And it's never going to pay itself back, ever. It's just not. But at least you get a lot of traffic. That'll be fun. More traffic. But anyway, you had Hogue running around excitedly saying it's going to happen, it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And then he was on with Layla and what is that guy's name? Marshall Harris? I always forget. And I don't think Grody was on there that day. I don't understand that whole lineup. It shifts all the time. And Layla wasn't buying any of it. You could just see the look on her face. She's like, he's so enthusiastic about it. And it's like, the thing is like, Adam, these are politicians that are telling you this. It's the Bears feeding him stuff. And then the politicians are feeding it. The Indiana politicians are feeding him this stuff. And they're all full of shit. If you cover politics for 10 minutes, they're all full of shit. And you can't believe 98% of what they tell you. And you couldn't believe any of that, right? Like, this is really going to happen, blah, blah, blah. It's still by far the most. If the ball is on the 1 yard line for Indiana, it's on the other one. They got 99 yards to go still. The Bears won't own that stadium. They'll be leasing it again, and I'm sure they can convince themselves, well, that's good. We don't really want to be in the stadium operation business, do we? But then they're going to piss and moan every day about how, well, we don't get as much money out of this as we thought. That's kind of, what's a bad deal? We're going to have to build a new stadium. They won't even have this one done, and they'll be looking to build one somewhere else. The best thing is still for them to go to Arlington Heights. It's still by far the most likely thing. And all they've really done is they've wasted so much time. They've wasted 2 years. The stadium could be almost done. They could be getting ready to move into it. And the Soldier Field can't wait for them to leave. They're already putting out plans about what they're going to do and turn Soldier Field into a much more open air, like open, because they don't need a stadium anymore, concert venue and put more green space. The kind of shit you really should have in front of the lakefront, not a ridiculous hulking football stadium blocking everybody's view of the lake. It will be if they go to Hammond, which I can't believe. I like the Iowa one. That's my favorite. I like Iowa. Well, we can get the Bears. They come here. That'd be perfect. Oh, sure. Yeah, sure. Put them down by the Quad Cities. See, look how close we are to Decatur. You go back to your roots. No matter where they go, it's one of the things. It's kind of perfect timing. It's kind of terrible timing. Perfect timing in that the team is good again, and there's a lot of excitement about it. But it's really kind of bad timing in that the games at the end of the regular season and the 2 home playoff games were so cool. Soldier Field, which is still, they fucked it up when they were rebuilding, but it really is a home field advantage. Like the crowd is on top of everybody, and it's cool in there when everybody's going nuts. It's not gonna be the same in your cookie cutter, enormous shoebox in Arlington Heights or, God forbid, Wolf Lake, whatever. But at the same time, I'm not one of these people who's like, the Bears can't play in a dome. This is Chicago. We're Chicago tough. We need the weather. Fuck that. The whole idea is not to make the fans as physically uncomfortable as possible, is it? What's wrong with being able to go in to watch a sporting event and not have to wear a parka and, battery powered underpants? You shouldn't have to do that. You should be able to just go in and be like, oh, it's nice in here. And the other thing is you're building this football team with this elite offense and all these great skill players, and you'd really kind of like them to not fall down because the turf is frozen and shitty. No, I don't care. I've been to cold football games in my life. If I never have to go to another one, I'll be perfectly fine with it. But I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, because part of the reason I don't give a shit if the Bear Stadium is in Hammond or in Arlington Heights or somewhere in Chicago, which is not going to be, is that I think going to NFL games sucks. I'd much rather watch them at home on TV. So to me, the football stadium is like a movie set. It literally is just the background where the action is being played in front of. And I just kind of want to look cool. That's all I need. I don't care about anything else because I'm watching it on TV. Screw that. If they build a stadium in Arlington Heights, I'll go once. I got to check it out, right? If it's Indiana, I don't think I'm going to bother. That's a little too far. And it's Indiana. I don't want to do that. Okay, very last thing is there's all this talk now from the everybody's at the combine and everybody's talking to each other, and it's mostly reporters are talking to reporters. And they're cooking up trade offers for their teams that they're covering to each other. And I saw that our friend John Greenberg said that he thinks that DJ Moore is going to get traded. And if they can trade him and clear all $23 million off the salary cap, I guess fine. If you're going to trade him and you're not going to get that much cap relief, then what are you doing? Just keep him, because you still need him, right? You're going to have to replace him. You don't have... Maybe you would be in a better position to do this had Rome not gotten hurt. Because early in the year, Rome looked like he was becoming a number one wide receiver. By the end of the year, and I'm sure it was because he was playing on one foot, he didn't look like that guy. So it's really hard then to look at it and go, we're fine with Rome and Luther and my man Jade, and then we'll find somebody else. I'd be really uncomfortable going into this season without DJ. Mostly what I get upset about, if they trade him and it's for a good reason, that's fine. If they're trading him and all these fans get excited because he was too lazy to run his route right at the end of the Rams game. It's just so dumb. I don't even know. There's some things you can't even argue with. That level of dumb, you can't argue with it. DJ is a really important part of this team. DJ played with a fucked up back all year. He got hurt early in the year, and he was hurt all year. And they needed him, and he played all the time. And he spent a lot of time in the tent, but he'd always come out of it. And when they show those amazing Caleb plays over the course of the year, there's an awful lot of them that go to DJ Moore. If this guy was a malingerer or whatever, how did he manage to beat the Packers single-handedly and make that incredible catch against the Browns? And he made an incredible catch in the Rams game. He made a one-handed, like a highlight scoop of a pass. So I don't like it. Now, am I mostly upset because I want his son, Bubba, to be around more? Of course. The most adorable thing. He's just the best. Bubba's great. If you can clear that cap money and then you can do other things with it, that's fine. This idea that, they'll put him in the trade for Max Crosby. If you can do that, then Poles gets to be executive of the year again. Did he win it for the Caleb trade? I don't think he did, but he should have. That would be fine too, right? But if you're just going to trade him and you're going to have to take back somebody else's half-ass contract and clear some of the money, I don't like it. I don't like that idea. I also like the DeAndre Swift thing. If they cut him, they could save $7 million, but you have to be able to find a replacement for him, because a very bare thing to do would be clear $7 million and then look around and go, oh, I guess we got to pay his replacement 9. Like, that didn't work the way we wanted it to. The Tremaine Edmonds thing makes perfect sense, right? You can't pay $16 million for his production. You just can't. And that contract was kind of built that way. Like in that his last year, you could get out from all of it if you wanted. And they're doing him a nice thing, saying, you can go look for a trade. In other words, you're not going to find one, but you can go look for one before we cut you. And then you can just go pick a team. Because some team's going to be like, well, maybe we'll just sign you. We don't want to take your contract. Them telling Tremaine they will do that is their way of them trying to say, look, maybe we can find a place where you can get your full contract, because you can't get it here. And they're going to need that money. They still have to get 2 safeties. They need a linebacker to replace him, and they need some other stuff. I can't imagine that they're in the cap situation where they can go sign Trey Hendrickson, or where they can trade for Max without DJ. Would have to be in that trade, right? It's the only way it could possibly work, or they're just not going to be able to clear the money. And I don't know, the Raiders are that excited about signing up for a $23 million. Maybe they are. Maybe that'll work fine. And the other thing I talked about on a past podcast was, I feel like as a Bear fan, we have an unrealistic fear of just how much the defense needs to improve. Because for our whole life, in order for the Bears to be good, the defense had to be amazing. And it had to like steal the ball all the time, and it needed to hold everybody to like 16 points a game, because we could barely score 17 points. And you don't live in that anymore. Like, our offense will actually score their offense. Yeah, I'm on the team. Their offense scores points, and it should be even better next year. And yes, you want as good a defense as possible. But this idea, I just think we're still in this mode where we're like, this defense has to be amazing. We have to have stars all over the field, or that's not how it works. And you should get a full year out of Kyler Gordon. You should get a full healthy year out of Jalen Johnson. He didn't have either last year. That immediately makes you better. It sounds like this is a free agent class full of safeties, which is why I think they didn't run right out and throw a bunch of money at Kevin Byard and Jaquan. I really like Jaquan, but he's always one tackle away from another concussion. And I just kind of wonder if maybe you just have to like move on. He certainly is talented, and he got through this whole year. Maybe they'll talk to the Cubs doctors. They'll say, oh, he's fine. Just give him a 10-year deal. He'll be fine. So I don't know. I'm not saying DJ won't get traded. Number one, I'm just not going to get all excited about it, because I really like him. I think he's a good player. I think he serves a useful purpose. I think he's a badass. And I think that anybody who's bitching about his effort level is either naive or just being an asshole, or both. Naive assholes are fun. But free agency starts a week from Monday, and there'll be this flurry of activity, and we'll look up and they'll be like, holy shit, well, how'd they do that? Or why'd they do that? Who knows? But anyway, it's coming. Don't buy if they try to sell you a PCL to a stadium in Hammond, hold off. I don't think it's a good investment. But you never know. Anyway, this was fun. If you need a book, I got 2. Go buy them. Go to Amazon. If you haven't subscribed to the newsletter, subscribe to the newsletter. Why not? The Cubs are back. There's all kinds of fun content in the newsletter. So go get them. And I will talk to you guys soon. Thanks.